started with a note, just a small, unassuming slip of paper tucked under my windshield wiper. I noticed it as I was leaving work one evening, the parking lot nearly empty, my car parked beneath the weak flicker of a street lamp. The paper fluttered slightly in the breeze, catching my attention as I approached. At first, I assumed it was some flyer, maybe an advertisement or a misplaced receipt, but when I plucked it from the glass and turned it over, my stomach did an uneasy flip. "You have a beautiful smile." The words were handwritten in neat, careful print. No signature, no indication of who had left it. I glanced around the parking lot, suddenly hyper-aware of how silent everything was. Most of my coworkers had already left, their cars long gone. A lone sedan sat at the far end of the lot, dark and unmoving. I told myself it was nothing, probably some random guy who thought it was a sweet gesture. I stuffed the note into my purse, climbed into my car, and locked the doors. As I drove home, I couldn't shake the strange feeling that I was being watched. The second note appeared the following night. By then, I had mostly forgotten about the first one. It hadn't seemed threatening, just odd. But when I saw the second note, a cold unease settled in my chest. "I love the way you do your hair." This time, my hands shook slightly as I picked it up. I looked around, scanning the lot for anyone lingering nearby, but there was no one. Just the dim glow of the overhead lights and the quiet hum of crickets in the distance. Was it a coincidence? Maybe a harmless admirer? Or was someone watching me? The thought sent a shiver down my spine. I rushed to my car, locking the doors the moment I slid inside. My breath came faster now, and I forced myself to exhale slowly, trying to push the paranoia away. But it was hard to ignore the feeling creeping up my neck, like unseen eyes were on me, watching my every move. I told myself I was overreacting. That was until the third note came. "You look so peaceful when you sleep." I froze, every muscle in my body locked up as I stared at the words, my brain struggling to process their meaning. My breath hitched. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears. Whoever was leaving these notes, they had seen me, in my most vulnerable state. I had never told anyone where I lived. I never posted pictures of my bedroom online, and yet someone had been watching me. I clutched the note tightly, my fingers crumpling the edges as panic clawed at my throat. My vision blurred as I frantically scanned the parking lot, expecting to see someone lurking in the shadows. Nothing, just silence. I didn't go straight home that night. Instead, I drove aimlessly for almost an hour, making random turns, checking my mirrors, trying to see if anyone was following me. By the time I finally pulled into my driveway, I was exhausted, mentally drained. I locked my doors, I checked my windows, I even peeked outside my curtains, heart hammering with each glance. But the street outside my apartment was empty. Still, I barely slept. And at exactly 3:07 a.m., I woke to a sound. A light, deliberate tapping. It was coming from my bedroom window. I lay there frozen, my pulse pounding so violently I thought I might pass out. I wanted to believe I imagined it, that it was just my sleep-deprived brain playing tricks on me, but then I heard it again. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. The only thing separating me from whoever was on the other side was a thin sheet of glass. I forced myself to reach for my phone, my fingers clumsy and shaking. I dialed 911 and whispered to the dispatcher, trying to keep my voice steady. By the time the police arrived, there was nothing. No footprints, no sign of forced entry, no indication that anyone had been there at all. But I knew I hadn't imagined it. Someone had been outside my window, watching. The next day, I bought a dash cam. I told myself it was for peace of mind, that I was being paranoid, but deep down I knew I needed proof. That night, I parked my car directly under the brightest street lamp in the lot. The cameras would catch everything. When I left work, I found another note waiting for me. I like watching you. My blood turned to ice. I didn't go home. Instead, I drove straight to the police station, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. I showed them the notes. I told them everything. But without any real evidence, there wasn't much they could do. That night, after triple checking that my doors were locked and my curtains were drawn, I sat in bed and pulled up the dashcam footage on my laptop. The video started normally. My car sat alone under the street lamp, the parking lot empty. I fast-forwarded through the footage, and then, at 1:43 a.m., he appeared. A figure emerged from the darkness, moving unnaturally slow. He was tall, wearing a hoodie with the hood pulled low over his face. He crept toward my car, reaching into his pocket. I watched, frozen, as he pressed the note onto my windshield, smoothing it down with careful fingers. And then, he turned and looked directly into the camera. For a full 20 minutes, he just stood there, not moving, not blinking, just staring. Even through the grainy footage, I could feel his eyes burning into the lens, like he knew I was watching, like he was waiting for me to find him. A shudder crawled down my spine as I slammed the laptop shut. I didn't sleep at all that night. The police took the footage seriously this time. They promised to increase patrols around my apartment, but I could tell they still didn't have any leads. That weekend, I packed a bag and stayed with a friend. I wasn't going to be alone anymore, but when I returned on Monday, there was one final note waiting for me, stuck to my front door. You can hide, but I'll always find you. I moved out the next day. To this day, I don't know who he was. I don't know if he was someone I knew or a complete stranger, but sometimes when I'm alone at night, I still feel that eerie sensation, the feeling of being watched, and somewhere out there, I know he's still watching. I first saw him on a Monday evening, struggling with a stack of moving boxes in the hallway. I had just gotten home from work, my arms full of groceries, when I nearly tripped over one of his boxes, sitting in the middle of the corridor. Oh, sorry about that. I looked up and saw him standing there, a tall man with pale skin and dark sunken eyes. He gave me a polite smile, but something about it felt off. No worries, I mumbled, stepping around the box. Moving in? Yeah, he nodded. Just across the hall from you. That gave me pause. I hadn't noticed anyone moving out recently. I hesitated, glancing at the door across from mine. It had been empty for months, ever since the last tenant, a quiet old woman, had left. I hadn't seen any for rent signs, no management emails about a new tenant. I forced a smile. Welcome to the building. Thanks, he said, his eyes lingering on me for a moment too long. I turned to unlock my door, but before I could step inside, he spoke again. It's nice to finally meet you, Ava. My stomach dropped. I hadn't told him my name. I told myself I was overreacting. Maybe the landlord had mentioned my name when leasing the apartment to him. Maybe he had seen my mail in the hallway. But over the next few days, something about him unsettled me. I'd see him standing in the hallway when I left for work, always too early for anyone to be awake. I'd hear his door creak open whenever I walked by, like he was listening for me. One morning, I stopped by my usual coffee shop before heading to work, as I always did. As I waited in line, I felt someone step up beside me. Morning. It was him. I forced a polite smile. Hey, you come here every day, he said, his voice light, conversational, but there was something beneath his words, something calculated. Yeah, I said. I like their coffee. I don't drink coffee, he replied. Then why was he here? I paid for my order, making my way toward the exit, but I could feel his eyes on me the entire time. The next morning, he was there again. And the next, he never ordered anything. He just stood there watching me. A few weeks after he moved in, I started noticing little things out of place in my apartment. It was subtle at first. A jacket I swore I'd left on the couch was suddenly draped over the chair instead. My bathroom cabinet was slightly open when I knew I had closed it. Then things started disappearing. A sweater, a framed photo of me and my sister, a pair of earrings. I searched everywhere, convinced I was just being forgetful, but deep down, I knew something was wrong. I changed my locks the next day, but it didn't matter. One night, I came home late after a long shift. The hallway was eerily quiet, and as I approached my door, I felt the familiar unease creeping in. Something was off. I slid my key into the lock and turned the knob. The door was already unlocked. My breath caught in my throat. I knew I had locked it before I left. Heart pounding, I pushed the door open slowly. The apartment was dark, silent. But as I took a cautious step inside, I saw it. A shadowed figure sitting in the armchair in the corner of my living room, waiting. The glow from the street lamp outside cast just enough light to see him. His face was half hidden in the darkness, but I could feel his gaze on me. It was him. The stranger, my neighbor. I wanted to scream, to run, but my body wouldn't move. "You changed the locks." His voice was calm, almost amused. I swallowed hard. "How did you?" "I made a copy before you did." My blood turned to ice. I fumbled for the light switch, my fingers shaking. When the room flooded with light, I saw him more clearly. And that's when I noticed something on his lap. My missing sweater, my earrings, and in his hands the framed photo of me and my sister. I felt like I was going to be sick. "You shouldn't leave your things lying around," he said softly. "I just wanted to keep them safe for you." Something in my body finally snapped. I bolted. I ran so fast I barely felt my feet hit the floor, throwing myself into the hallway and pounding on my neighbor's door. An elderly couple lived there, and when they opened up, confused and alarmed, I gasped, "Call the police, now." When the police arrived, they found his apartment completely covered in pictures of me, photos taken through my window, candid shots of me walking to my car, coming home, sitting in my living room, hundreds of them. In one of the photos, I was asleep. He had been inside my apartment before, many times. They arrested him that night. He had a record, breaking and entering, stalking. I learned later that he had never even signed a lease. He hadn't moved in. He had just moved in. After that, I couldn't stay in that building. I broke my lease, packed my things, and left town. But even now, in a different city, in a different apartment, I still double-check my locks, because sometimes, when I'm alone at night, I swear I can feel his eyes on me, watching, waiting, somewhere out there. He still knows my name, and he knows how to find me. It started with a casual glance. I was leaving the grocery store late one night, my arms full of bags, when I noticed him. A man standing by his car a few rows away. At first, he didn't seem out of place, just someone finishing up their errands like I was. But as I loaded my groceries into the trunk, I realized something odd. He wasn't doing anything. He wasn't putting away groceries. He wasn't looking at his phone. He was just standing there staring at me. I tried to ignore the prickling unease crawling up my spine. Maybe he was waiting for someone. Maybe I was imagining things. Still, I didn't waste time. I shut my trunk, climbed into the driver's seat, and locked the doors. When I pulled out of the lot, I gave one last glance in my rearview mirror. He was still standing there watching. The next time I saw him, I was at a gas station. It had been a long day, and I just wanted to get home. I had almost forgotten about the man in the parking lot until I saw him again, leaning against a dark sedan parked near the air pump. watching me. My heart lurched. It wasn't a coincidence, it couldn't be. I forced myself to stay calm as I swiped my card and started pumping gas, but every nerve in my body screamed at me to run. When I finally dared to look back, he was gone. I barely slept that night. A week passed, no sign of him. I convinced myself I had been paranoid, that it was just some weird fluke. And then, one night, I was driving home from work. It was late. The freeway was nearly empty. That's when I noticed the car behind me, a dark sedan. At first, I didn't think anything of it. But after a few exits, I started to notice a pattern. Every time I changed lanes, so did he. Every time I sped up, he matched my speed. My stomach twisted. It was him. I knew it was him. I took the next exit, pretending it was my turnoff. So did he. I made a random left, then a right, then another right. My hands were slick on the wheel, my breathing shallow. He was still behind me. I was being followed. A sudden panic took over. Instead of driving home, I pulled into a busy diner parking lot. I parked right in front of the entrance where the lights were bright and people were around. The sedan drove past slowly. I watched, my pulse hammering, as it lingered at the edge of the lot. Then finally, it disappeared into the night. I sat there for nearly an hour, gripping the wheel, too afraid to leave. I didn't know what to do. Call the police? What would I even say? A man has looked at me a few times and followed me home. They'd tell me it wasn't enough. So instead I went home. I locked my doors, and I tried to forget. For a while, things seemed normal. Then, little things started happening. I'd step outside to find footprints in the dirt near my bedroom window. My mailbox would be left slightly open, even though I never forgot to close it. My trash can was moved just a few inches away from where I had left it. Small things, subtle things, but I knew I was being watched. I told my friends, my coworkers. They shrugged it off. It's probably nothing. The police wouldn't do anything without proof. I started carrying pepper spray. I checked my locks 3 times before going to bed, but nothing prepared me for the night I found my bedroom window unlocked. I had been on edge all day. That feeling, the one that makes your skin crawl, the one that tells you someone is standing just behind you, had been gnawing at me since the moment I woke up. At first, I tried to brush it off as paranoia. Maybe I was just overtired. Maybe it was all in my head, but deep down, I knew better. That night, as I was getting ready for bed, the unease only grew worse. Every shadow in my apartment felt too deep. Every sound, no matter how small, felt too sharp. Even the steady hum of my fridge sounded foreign, like something unnatural had settled into my space. I shook it off, forcing myself through my usual bedtime routine. Brush my teeth, wash my face, lock the door. Something inside me whispered, check again. So I did. I walked through my apartment slowly, methodically, checking every door and window, making sure everything was locked. Kitchen, secure. Bathroom, secure. Living room, secure. And then I reached my bedroom. I stopped. The window was unlocked. A chill ran down my spine. I knew, without a doubt, I had locked it. My stomach twisted, nausea creeping into my throat. Slowly, cautiously, I reached out and pressed my fingertips against the window frame. It was slightly ajar. Someone had been here. Someone had tried to get in. A shiver crawled up my neck as I scanned the room, my pulse hammering against my ribs. Nothing looked out of place. My dresser was the same, my bed untouched. But something felt wrong. The air was different, thicker. And then, just as I turned my head, I heard it. A soft rustling sound, not from outside, from behind me, from the closet. I froze. The sound was subtle, almost imperceptible, just the faintest shift of fabric, The lightest creak of wood, but in that moment it was deafening. Every hair on my body stood on end, my breath caught in my throat, my hands trembling curled into fists. My mind screamed at me to run, but my body wouldn't move. I turned my head just slightly, just enough to see the dark, narrow gap between the closet doors, just enough to see the sliver of a man's face staring back at me. My blood ran cold. His eyes, dark, unblinking, locked onto mine. His face was partially obscured by the shadows, but I could see enough. The curve of his cheek, the edge of his lips, the way he was smiling. I had been there the whole time, watching me, waiting. A low, shaky breath escaped his lips, and I realized something else. He wasn't surprised I saw him. He had been waiting for me to notice. I screamed. The paralysis shattered. I bolted out of the room so fast I nearly tripped over myself, my vision tunneling as pure adrenaline took over. I didn't stop to grab my phone. I didn't stop to look back. I just ran. I threw myself into the hallway, pounding on my neighbor's door. My fists hit the wood so hard they ached, my breath coming in ragged gasps. The door finally swung open, my elderly neighbor blinking at me in alarm. "Call the police," I gasped. "Please, he's in my apartment." The police arrived minutes later, but by the time they got inside, the closet was empty. But he had been there. They found the window wide open. They found footprints on my bedroom floor and under my bed. They found a knife. They never caught him. The security cameras in my building only covered the entrance, and the footage was too grainy to identify him. The police called it a random break-in. They told me I was lucky I had seen him before he decided to make a move. But I knew the truth. This wasn't random. The man in the parking lot, the man at the gas station, the man who followed me home. It had always been him. And the worst part? Somewhere out there he was still watching, still waiting. And the next time, I might not be so lucky. If you enjoyed those terrifying legends and stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more haunted stories. Until next week, sweet dreams.